Hi everybody, I'm back with another tutorial, and I think the last time I told you that I was thinking of making a clasp tutorial, and I am, because I have a very strong love for S-clasps. I think they're the most versatile clasps that you can use. They're good for right-handed people, left-handed people, and you don't have to worry about how to fasten it or how to turn your necklace or bracelet in order to get it on. And so what I have discovered is that you can take this little stretch of wire and you can add all kinds of things to it. You can add all kinds of decorations, not so much decorations as embellishments to it. So what the first one I saw like that was, what was her name? Denise Williams? Denise, yeah, I think it's Denise Williams on YouTube. I hope I got her name right. But anyway, and it was gorgeous. It was a S-clasp with a wrapped bead in the center. I saw that and I went, wow, so pretty. And I've used it several times. And she also showed how to do that same type of thing without a bead in the center, just by making an S within an S kind of. I don't know if that's it. There we go. I think that's visible. I have another one that I made in copper. And I think that is so neat. And from there, I thought, well, if you can do that, I'll bet you can do all kinds of other things. Sorry, my shirt's falling off. All kinds of other embellishments in the center of your wire. And I started playing around, and man, I've had the best time. So what I did was one with I did the same type of thing with the center, the scrolled center, except that I just made a knot, sort of like you do when you make head pins with a little knot on the end. I just took that knot and put it in the center and then wrapped around it, just like I would if it were a bead. And I got that. And then I wondered about spirals. Anybody who knows me knows I love spirals. I thought, wow, wouldn't it be neat if you could put a spiral in the center? And so I did. There it is. And then I thought, well, what about putting a spiral with a bead? That's possible. Yes, yes, Virginia, it is possible. So there is my spiral bead. And then I started playing around with the possibility. I see earrings made of all kinds of shaped wire. I thought you could do that with a clasp too. So I did at one point in time, I had done some bracelets that were made, linked bracelets that were made out of, what are they called? Oh, I just lost my thought completely. It's knots, some kind of a knot. I can't remember. Anyway, but it's a knot. Celtic knots. So I put a Celtic knot in the center of my S-clasp. And here's another Celtic knot. Isn't that awesome? So I wanted to do as many of those today as I can and see what we can come up with. And starting with the nice basic S-clasp. So let's get going because we have a lot of ground to cover and not a lot of time to do it in. Well, I'm trying to keep it down to a reasonable amount of time. So we're going to start with the S-clasp. This is our basic. This is our basic clasp. Get a little more light on here on the subject. Okay, so the first thing that we want is, I'm going to do this one in copper. I think it shows up a little better on camera here, yeah. Okay, so the first thing we're going to make is our traditional S-clasp. Now for these particular clasps, we need our basic pliers, round nose, square or chain nose, and cutters, just basic. We need a ruler for measuring, and we need 20 gauge wire. So for our first clasp, our S-clasp, without any embellishment, we're going to use 2 inches of wire. All right, so I'm going to cut my 2-inch length of wire. And I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to make a teeny tiny loop right on the tip of my wire. So I'm going to grab the tip of my wire with the tip of my pliers, and I'm going to make a loop. Now I'm only going to go 3/4 of the way around. I don't want to close it up. So I'm going to go 3/4 of the way, and then I'm going to close it up the rest of the way with my flat pliers. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want that loop to be teeny, teeny, tiny. And I can't get it that small with my pliers, as you can probably see here. The pliers will not go in that loop. So I want it as small as I can get it, so it'll go through any hook, or not hook, but any loop that I have. It'll go right through there. So I've got my little loop, and I'm going to make my hook. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go about 3/4 of the way down my pliers, almost to the back, but not quite. So I want a decent sized shepherd's hook. And I call the bottom of my loop the part where the loop actually is, and the top is the part where the wire extends. So I'm going to go right in there and clasp my wire with the jaws of my pliers. The bottom of my wire is the part that's facing me. And I'm going to take the end of my wire over the top. I've got to get that straight there. Over the top of my pliers and let it touch the top of my loop. So I'm going to bring it over, let it tap, just tap it, just tap the top of my loop, pull that out, and I have my first shepherd's hook. And then I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm going to make a small loop on the same side, going in the direction of my large loop. So I'm going to grasp the end of my wire with the tip of my pliers. I'm going to make my loop going towards the shepherd's hook that I've already made. So there it is, about 3/4 of the way around, almost, but not quite closed. Take my flat pliers and squish it closed, like so. Then I'm going to go in with my round nose pliers, 3/4 of the way down my wire. I'm going to bring my other shepherd's hook over and around until it touches the top. Oh, I was off camera. I'm going to have to do it again. Until it touches the top of my shepherd's hook, just like I did on the other side. But because I was off camera, I'm going to show you again. Okay, 2 inches of wire. Flip it off. Make my loop. Tiny, tiny loop, 3/4 closed. Close it up the rest of the way with my pliers. Oh, we have a jumper. He does not want to be tamed. Okay, close it up with my pliers. Take my round nose pliers again, slide my wire down about 3/4 of the way down my pliers. Wrap the tail of my wire around my pliers until it, I am off camera again. Okay. Okay. Wrap the tail of my wire around my pliers until it taps. What is wrong? You know what? Let me move this. Okay. Until it taps the tip of my loop, like so. First shepherd's hook down. I'm going to go to the other side, make another tiny loop, 3/4 closed. Finish it up with my large pliers, my square pliers. Just close that up. Slide my wire down my pliers about 3/4 of the way. Wrap it around until the wire taps my loop. And there is my S hook. Very nice, very pretty. And I used 2 inches of wire to get approximately a 3/4 inch length. Yeah, 3/4 of an inch, a little more than 3/4 of an inch finished S hook. If you want it bigger, use more wire. If you want it smaller, use less wire. But you need to make a determination on how big or small you want it to be. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to make the wrapped bead S hook. So I'm going to grab a bead here. I have these in all, seriously, all different colors. And I said I was going to, when I finished, I was going to make a bracelet out of it. So I'm doing a different color today. So I got this nice little sky blue 6mm, 4x6mm rondelle crystal. And I'm going to use that to make my wrapped bead S hook. For that, I'm going to need about 5 inches of wire. I've also done this with 4mm beads. And for that, you would need 4 inches of wire. You just want to make sure you have enough to get a decent wrap in. So I used I've used 4mm or 4 inches of wire for 4mm beads and 5 for 6mm beads. So I'm going to give myself 6 inches of wire and 5 inches of wire. I'm just tripping up on my words here. 5 inches of wire for 6mm bead. I'm going to cut that off. Now, Yvonne Williams, when she did this on YouTube, she set hers up where she made her shepherd's hook first. She made the one shepherd's hook on the one end, then put her bead on, and then the shepherd's hook on the other end, and then she made her wrap. But I have not had a lot of luck with that because what happens is one side would end up longer than the other. Then I would have to make adjustments with my shepherd's hook. And if you're using sterling silver or something like that, that's a pain in the neck. You're going to end up mangling your wire. I'm using bare copper, so it doesn't matter. I just don't want to have to do that. So what I've done was reinvent the way to do it by putting my bead on first, then wrapping it, and making my shepherd's hook last because I can cut them down to the right size if I need to. So I'm going to go ahead. I've got my bead in the center. I'm going to take one side of my wire, one end of my wire, and I'm going to bring it over to the other side, like so, and then wrap it around the bead. And bring it back to the same side. So it's still on opposite sides of the other wire, and it's wrapped around there. Then I'm going to take the other wire that I haven't done anything with yet, and I'm going to bring it over and around the same side. Now I know it's usual, what you would usually want to do is wrap the other one around the other direction. But no, that is a no. You're following the other one. So this one wrapped around this way. This one's going back this way towards it. And it's going to look like you're unwrapping, but you're not. Just be patient. You're going to wrap that around the same direction as the other one until you're back on the other side again. So what you have is an S. Da, 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 da. Sorry, I just watched Superman the other day. Again, the theme song is in my head. But we've got a little Superman S in the center. If that was a red bead, it would be perfect, but it's not, but whatever. So now we're going to continue to wrap. So I'm going to continue the same direction, bring that around to the other one, and then run away from that one with this one. I'm just going to keep running them around the bead until I have about an inch of wire left in them both. So just keep maneuvering around the bead. You can see there's my little wrap. And just keep going until I have about an inch. Now, I think one of these is about an inch. The other one's a teeny tiny bit longer. So here we go. What have I got? Yes, I've got about an inch there. And here I have about an inch and an eighth. So I'm going to clip this one off a little bit. Until it meets the same size as the other one. This is why I was saying that I didn't like to make my shepherd's hook in the beginning, because one is always longer than the other. Now, oh, there's a little tail. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, so this is one of your shepherd's hooks is going to go this way, and the other one's, this one's going to go that way down. This one's going to go this way up. And so what I want to do is make sure that my shepherd's hook is going to follow the nice S path that I've started to make. So this one is wrapping around this way, and then it's going to come up and go around the other way. So I'm going to make a little curve in my wire. You don't have to do this, but I do. I like it. And then this one is going up and around, and it's going to curve that way. So now you can see we have a little wave. Okay. So now I'm going to make my S hook. Little. Yeah, there we go. Yes. So the first thing I'm going to do is make my little loop, and it's going to be the curve that's going up. Your loop is going to go in the opposite direction. And so this curve is going up. My loop is going to go down. My tiny one, my little tiny 3/4 closed loop. So we've got that. Close it up with my flat pliers. There we go. And now I'm going to make my shepherd's hook going in the direction that it's already slightly curved. So I'm going to go back about 3/4 of the way down my pliers and make my shepherd's hook. Just wrap it around until it touches. And there we go. It looks like a little swan. Isn't that cute? Okay, and then go to the other side and do the same exact thing. My tail is swooping up, my loop goes down. Three-quarters closed. Close it up with my flat pliers. Be very careful. Don't want to mangle it like I just tried to do. Go back in with my pliers, my round nose pliers, about 3/4 of the way down my wire, right above that loop here, and rotate until I have a nice shepherd's hook. And there is my clasp. Isn't that just the cutest thing ever? I love it. So cute. All right, so that's 2 down. So let's move on to the one that you do similar to this without a bead in the middle. This one. The little S within the S. And I'm not going to sing the Superman theme again. I refuse. All right, so for that, I need about 3 inches of wire. So for the plain one, we use 2 because I'm going to put this little bit of an embellishment in. I need about another inch. So I'm going to give myself 3 inches wire. And for this one, I can actually go ahead and make my shepherd's hook and then make my embellishment. So I'm going to go ahead and make my tiny loop. You're going to get sick of me talking about making this tiny loop. Make this tiny loop 3/4 of the way. Clamp it closed with my square pliers. Go back in. 3/4 of the way, I think again. Yeah. Wrap it around until I touch. Just kiss the top of my loop, and there's my shepherd's hook. Go to the other side, and when I'm making my other loop, I want to make sure it's on the same side as this loop. It's going in the direction of your other little loop. So there we go. 3/4. And close it up with my pliers here. Okay. Go 3/4 of the way down my pliers. And now this one is going to be on the other side. It's going to be on the opposite side of this one. So roll that around, oops, until I have my shepherd's hook. And there we go. And now we have this nice little expansive wire in here that we're going to decorate. So I'm going to go right in the center here. You can measure, or you can eyeball it, whichever makes you more comfortable. Yeah, I have a nice inch of wire. I want to go around this in about the center of it. Very nice, yes. And I'm going to go about 1/4 of an inch down my pliers, and I'm just going to bend back. This is the head of my shepherd's hook. I'm going to bend back towards the head of my shepherd's hook, away from where the loop is. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. Bend it back, all the way back until the little loops are touching. Take my pliers out. And there we have it. That is about as easy as you can get to make something so beautiful. And there we go. And for this one, I like to, I'm using 20 gauge wire, which is not very heavy, but pound it to strengthen the wire. You can also do this in 18 gauge. I would not go I would not use a larger gauge than 22. Actually, I wouldn't go larger than 20 because it'll just not be strong enough. So I would stick with either 20 or 18 or even 16, depending on how strong you want it to be. But I would not go any higher in gauge than 20. And remember, 22 is a thinner wire than the 20 gauge. The higher the gauge, the bigger the gauge, the smaller the wire. So there we go. Nice and strong. Very good. That's 3. So now let's do, what do we want to do now? I know, we'll do the one with the knot in the center that doesn't have a bead. Same premise, different look. Okay, so for this one, we're going to need about, it depends on how big you want this to be. Shouldn't take more than 3 inches. That should be plenty big enough, but you can give yourself an extra 1/4 of an inch or whatever, just in case you want to make your center a little bit bigger. But I'm going to go with 3 inches, which is the same amount that we used for this one. I want to go bigger than that. I'm going to go 3.5. 3.5 inches, and then I'll have a good 1.5 inches of wrapping wire. So I'm going to give myself 3.5 inches. And what we're going to do is go about 2/3 of the way down the wire. And we're going to make a coil. And we're going to use the long end of the wire to coil it. I want a good inch for my, in fact, that's what you can do. Just measure 1 inch to accommodate your shepherd's hook. So I'm going to give myself 1 inch for my shepherd's hook. I'm going to grasp my wire right there where I've marked off that inch. I'm going to slide my wire down about 1/8 of an inch away from the tip of my pliers. It doesn't have to be very large because you're just going to make a coil here. So I'm going to wrap my wire around until I have a loop. Then I'm going to continue with that loop until I have 1.5 times around. So that's 1.5, and then I'm going to continue until I have a full 2 loops. So I've got 2 loops around, and then I'm going to go slightly past that and stop. I'm going to take that long tail of wire, and I'm going to loop it around. I'm going to make a circle and just bring that wire around and through my coil. So you're just going to have to bend it. No problem. Just bend it until you can feed that end through the coil in your wire. And then you can push it through or pull it through, whichever is easier for you. Just push it through that little coiled loop. And then I like to use my pliers. Grab it, grab the loop, and just pull it until my knot is the size that I want it. I don't need it to be too big. There. Then I'm going to wrap, just like we did with the loop that had the bead in it. I'm going to bring that around to the other side where the other wire is. It's already starting to work harden. Starting to stiffen up already. Okay. Then I'm going to bring this one around like we did the last time with the other one. Let's wrap it around. And there we go. There's my little center wrap. Okay, and now I'm ready to make my shepherd's hook. Pull it a little tighter. Just want a small center there. So I'm going to make my little curve. Make a little curve over here. And you can see that this side's longer than this side, so I'm going to cut it off a little bit. Here. Cut that down so that both sides are the same. Cut it down a little bit more, I think. Let's see here. Yeah, there we go. And yeah, they're pretty close to the same. About 3/4. All right, just a teeny bit of a tip off of there. Okay, and make my little curve. Got my little wave going. All right, so I'm going to make one loop, a tiny loop, a usual tiny loop. Close it up with my pliers. And make my shepherd's hook. Because this little loop is so tiny, I'm going to make a small shepherd's hook. So I'm going to go about halfway down my pliers this time. And there's my little swan. And the same thing on the other side. Still think this is a little longer. So let's cut that down a tad. Okay, tiny loop. Loop goes down, swerve goes up, loop goes down. Close it up with my pliers. Make my shepherd's hook halfway down this time. And there we are. Cute. So cute. Yeah, can't see it on my hand. There we go. Isn't that darling? All right. So now we've done what? 4 of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my goodness. No, 4. We've done 4. We've done 4. Okay, so now we're going to do, what do I want to do next? Let's do one of the Celtic knots. Let's do this Celtic knot. All right. So for that, we're going to need about 1.5 inches for the knot itself. Not really, but at least I know I have plenty. And again, it depends on the size that you want your clasp to be. So that's entirely up to you. I'm going to give myself 1.5 inches just to be safe, and then another inch on either end of my either end for my shepherd's hook. And you can always measure. So I think I want it about the same size as this, or you can make it smaller. It depends. I made a teeny tiny one. Where is it? I just made the knot really small. I made one where I made the knot, made it just, here we go. Here's the one with the smaller knot. Really pretty. And then this one, the knot is a little bit longer. So it just depends on the effect that you want. So I'm going to give myself 2.5 inches, 1, 2, 3.5, excuse me, 3.5 inches of wire. And I'm going to start by making my Celtic knot. So what I want to do is go about 1/3 of the way down my pliers. And you can shape this with your fingers. You don't have to use the pliers, but I find it easier to get a consistent loop if I use my pliers. So I'm going to go about, I don't want it to be too big. So I'm going to go just a little more than halfway down. And I'm going to wrap my pliers, my wire around my pliers until I have about a teardrop shape. I'm going to give it a teardrop, and then I'm going to wrap it around the other way. Under my small loop. I mean, under my small tail. So again, halfway down my pliers, this is the top, this is the bottom, and I'm going to bring this around and under my small tail of wire. So now this is what I have. It looks like an ampersand. And then I'm going to bring it, bend my wire, sort of like I did with my knotted clasp. I'm going to bend my wire, bring it around, and poke it through the top loop from the top. And now your wire is probably starting to work harden, so it's going to get, you have to do this pretty quickly so that it doesn't get to the point where it's too stiff to work with. And we want it to get to stiffen because it's a clasp, but you want to get all of the work that you need to be done out of the way first. So I'm going to push it through a little bit from the back, and then I'm going to pull it to close my knot up a little bit because it's a little bigger than I want it to be. So I want to make this one smaller. So I'm going to grab the top of the other one and pull the tail. And I just do it a little bit at a time because if I pull it too fast, this could close up too quickly. So I just do it a little bit at a time. See how fast that went? And now I want to get to the other side and do the same thing, just a little bit at a time. Holding the top loop and pulling so that the bottom loop get smaller. A little bit more. Oops. And you also can use your pliers. You can just, once you get them even, oh my goodness, my hands are slippery. You can use your pliers and pull both of them at the same time. But I find that I have a little more control if I use my hand. My hands are slippery. All of these lights are making me perspire a bit. Ouch. Now I'm gonna mangle myself. Okay, I think that's good. And there's my knot, my Celtic knot, and yes, I am bleeding now. Darn it. Don't worry about that. It's not a big deal. I'll put some alcohol on it and I'll be fine. Okay, so I've got my Celtic knot. Okay, sorry. I paused it for a second. I wanted to take care of my little boo-boo. Anyway, all right, we have our Celtic knot here in the center. And now it's time to make my shepherd's hook. And as you can see, look at how much wire I have left. I took 3.5 inches of wire, and I still have over 3 inches. So it took about 5/8 of an inch of wire. Wait, took 3.5. And I have 3. I have 3 inches of wire. So it took me about 1/2 an inch to make this small, this small Celtic knot. So I'm going to cut this down to 1 inch because that's really all I need for my shepherd's hook. It doesn't have to be too big. Okay, just a tiny little clip off of there. Same on the other side. There we go. And time for my shepherd's hook. Now, I again follow the curve so that it looks sort of like an S, and this is coming around this particular wire is coming around this way and up. So I'm going to follow that curve around. So this is where the way my shepherd's hook is going to go. And the same with this one's going this way and up or down in that case until I flipped it. And so it's going to go like this. All right. So making my loop in the opposite direction of the curve. Three-quarters closed. Finish it up with the flat pliers. And then make my shepherd's hook, just like we've done all of the others. And it rests right there at the top of my Celtic knot. Small loop down. Close it up with my pliers. And shepherd's hook. And there we have it. Lovely little Celtic knot How's that for cute as it can be? Isn't that amazing? Let's do one more, just one more, just one more. Okay, so we're gonna do one more, and I'm debating between the spiral versus the beaded spiral. I don't know which one to do. Which one would you do? Which one? Which one? You can't tell me. So I'm just gonna have to make my own choice. Okay, I'm going to do the beaded spiral just because. Okay, so for that, I'm going to need what do I want for my beaded spiral here? Okay, so I'm going to give myself about 1.5 inches of wire to wrap around the bead. And then of course, 2 inches, 1 inch each for my shepherd's hook. So that's 3.5 inches. And all right, put my bead in. Okay. Measure here. All right. And it's similar to the other one, except that you're just wrapping one around. So I've got my inch that I need for my shepherd's hook on one end. And the bead is right there at that inch. Actually, not at the inch. What we're going to do is go about, you know what, actually what we need to do is go about 1 inch down and then give myself enough space to wrap for the spiral. So I need 1 inch for my shepherd's hook, and I need about another quarter, a little more than 1/4 of an inch for the wrap to work its way up towards the shepherd's hook. So I'm going to go about 1/3 of the way down my wire, and I'm going to bring the long tail of wire around, sort of like we did with the wrapped bead. I'm going to make a loop, and I'm just going to continue to wrap around this bead with the long tail of wire. And I want to make sure that I'm wrapping the wire around itself, not on top of each other. It just needs to be around itself. Until I have a spiral. It's hard to show you with my hands on top of there, but there we go. So now I have a spiral in the center. I hope that was clear. So there's my spiral. Basically, all I did was take the long end of wire and just wrap it around and around and around until I have this nice spiral in the center. Okay, so now what we're going to do is create our shepherd's hooks. Now this side that had the wire sticking out of it that we didn't do anything with, we're just going to shape that up. And then the other one's going to go the other direction, just like last time with the others. And you can kind of manipulate the one that didn't move away from where it's sticking out so that it settles where you want it. Because we want one on each side of the other. We want one up near the top on one side and one near the bottom on the other side. And this one's kind of, I hate to use the word tricky because then people shy away from it. But this one, you have to kind of bend the way you want it because this one's going that way and this one has to go the other way. So you have to manipulate it a little bit so that it goes the way you want. Okay. So there we go. Kind of looks weird. It'll come out okay. All right, I need to cut this off a little bit because it is a little longer than I want it to be. All right, where's my clippers? Okay, I'm going to curve down on my lip. Close that up. Again, 3/4 of the way, not all the way. Goodness. See, I'm trying to keep it down to a reasonable amount of time, so I put a timer on myself. Okay. Make my lip. Okay, there's my shepherd's hook. Go to the other side and make my lip. 3/4 of the way around. Close it up with my flat pliers. Make my shepherd's hook. And there we go. And like I said, you're going to have to manipulate this a little bit because the one is not wrapped, so it needs to be guided to where you want it to go. So there is kind of a bullseye, my little spiral. You can see that. There we go. Here we go. My spiral clasp. Ooh, oh, I got down the floor, but anyway, you get the picture. You saw it, I hope. It's down there somewhere. Anyway, so that is our tutorial for today. It'll come out like this. It looks like this when you're finished. Oh my goodness, I've got a lot of glare here. Go away. There we go. So that's what the spiral looks like when you're finished. Awesome. Okay, so anyway, that is our tutorial for today. I'm looking for my little clasp that I dropped on the floor. So we made a traditional S-hook, a wrapped bead S-hook, an S within an S-hook. Let me see if I can put these on something so that you can see them. A knotted S-hook, a Celtic knot S-hook, and a spiral S-hook. There you are. Got a lot done today. And I hope that you'll be able to take some of these designs and use them for yourself. So much fun. And they're so useful. It's nice to have something that's not only functional, but pretty. And that's what we did today. So there they are. Take that, go have some fun with it, really enjoy yourself. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I love making these things. I'm sure I'll think of more to do. We didn't get to the other Celtic knot, but I don't like to go too far over an hour because I think it scares people away. So hopefully you will have enjoyed this and you will make some of these clasps. And if you think of any yourself that you can, any kind of embellishments yourself that you would like to see in a clasp, please let me know because I would love to play with that. I love to do them. It's a lot of fun. Again, the S-Clasp is the most versatile one that you can make because of the fact that it's not left or right hand oriented. You can go with either hand. It's functional and beautiful. I've made necklaces out of it. I've made bracelets out of it with a centerpiece and the rest of it S-clasps. I'm going to take all of the ones that I've made just for demonstration purposes. I don't know if you can see these. All of these different clasps. I'm going to take them all and I'm going to make them into a bracelet. There's so many of them. I mean, just tons and tons. I can't show you because they'll all fall on the floor probably. Just tons and tons of them in all different colors. So I'm going to take those and I think I'm going to make them into a bracelet for myself. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know what you think, what you thought. If you have any thoughts or ideas of other things that you would like to see, if you have any embellishments that you can think of that I can use to put in an S-hook class, or if you want to just challenge me to do it and see if I can, I might be able to, I might not, but just let me know. I would love to hear from you and I would love to hear your ideas. So thanks for watching and you will see me again next week. Bye-bye and have a good weekend.